know, to overlap. You can't go anywhere without knowing someone or having part of your life be part of someone else's. So anyway, so Bill is going to talk about the sites. We'll turn it over to him. Off you go.
She didn't tell you that we went to church together too.
Yes.
So we went to school together and we went to church together in a very tiny little community called Jerome. In Springfield. So that's where
On the southwest corner. It's still there.
it's still there. And my house, my room is still there. Your house, I assume, is still
Yes,
there.
it's still there.
It was quite a small community. My father was the choir director, so we sang together and all kinds of things.
Yes.
And Paula grew up not too far from Chandlerville, where Marla, she got married.
Yeah.
Her life
Yeah.
there, and her
Yeah.
heart's still in Chandlerville.
Yes, very much.
So, are you in Logan County? Just remember that. Her heart belongs to Chandlerville. It was wonderful to catch up with her. She said to me, we have a connection. And then I remembered her name. And when I mentioned her name, I knew her from her name in West Grade School, Marla Slidham. And that was a friend of mine as a child. So I want to
Yes.
thank you for
Yes.
telling me that.
Yes.
So someday you'll put up a historical marker tomorrow.
And he'll come and talk about it.
I'll come and talk about all the good stuff.
Yeah, right.
So thank you all for taking time to be here tonight, and thank you for inviting Paula and I to come over and speak with you about historical markers. First, I want to ask you a question. Who in Logan County deserves a historical marker?
It doesn't have one.
That doesn't have one.
Maybe all of us.
Possibly. Possibly. And there's no reason why, you, as the Logan County Historical Society, you can't make that happen. No, you're empowered to do that. Can you think of anybody right off the bat that deserves a historical marker in Logan County that doesn't have one already? I want you to think about that, and at the end of the show and program, I'm going to ask you that question again. There was a one that I'm still waiting for to be announced, and it's for a man named Robert Music, who is in Logan County. The marker is here somewhere. I don't know if they dedicated it yet or not, because I haven't seen it up. But that's one of the very early settlers of Logan County. And we were working for that marker for about 5 years, and I think it's in the ground now. So I'm pleased to see Kurt Fox here. Kurt and I go back to the University of Illinois Springfield. We serve on the Lunch and Learn Society for the SAGE organization at the university. We have programs every year, and half of the last probably 15 years we've been doing programs out there. So it's a treat to see him. Can you hear me in the back?
Yes.
Pretty okay? Much okay? Okay, I'm going to go through these quickly because I'm afraid some of you are going to nap. And you know, and I will. So it's called Marking History. We're going to start here. This is a marker in Springfield, Lithuanians in Springfield. Potential marker in Logan County. You have a lot of ethnic people who lived here. Think about communities that are unusual. Lithuanians came over here in 2 or 3 different waves. They were called displaced people, displaced persons, the DSs. And this is a group on the northeast side of Springfield that had their own church. It's long gone now, but they have a community of Lithuanians in Springfield who put this marker up to remind themselves of where they came from, and that they were a significant part of the North End community. They worked in the mines, they worked in the shoe factory, they were a presence, but now they're almost gone. Kids don't know anything about Lithuanians. They don't know anything about coal mines in Springfield. Fascinating. So I wanted you to see this one. This says it typically takes about 8 months, 6 months to get a marker installed, but we've had some take as long as 10 years from start to finish. It takes a long time to get all the facts together. This is one of the very first markers in Springfield. This was at the Lincoln Hall. This is 1934. It was put in, probably put together, molded by prisoners, because back then that's who they used. The labor came from the prisoners. So this one's no longer in the field. Last time I saw it was at the Lincoln Hall inside the visitors. 1934, this one from, and most of the early ones had to do with Lincoln. You can imagine. Who knows who Robert Ingersoll was? Anybody? Robert Ingersoll? This is a marker in a little town called El Dorado, or El Dorado in Saline County. Right off the highway between Raleigh and El Dorado, or El Dorado, El Dorado, right? Would you call it? But he was a lawyer. He was a famous lawyer, went to school in Greenville, had a law practice with his brother in Saline County, but he's not known for being a lawyer. This marker, which was put up in probably the 50s, I think, 54, says that he was a lawyer and he had a law practice here, and he and his brother were well-known lawyers. Robert Ingersoll was the most famous atheist in the country between 1865 and 1900. He was so well known. Mark Twain, even some people in England revered him for being the atheist that he was because he argued his point so well. But in Saline County, you can't get away with putting a sign up that says he was an atheist. You probably couldn't do it here either. He was a lawyer in Peoria. He was a state's attorney for Illinois in the 1860s and 70s. He fought the Civil War. But this marker doesn't even say what he did. Doesn't even say who he was. But that marker is still there. It's fascinating because if you look at his speeches, he was the best paid and best known orator in this country in the 1880s. Highest paid orator. And his argument was all about God and Jesus and the church. Fascinating, but he's gone virtually from your memory right now. But there's a huge statue of him in the middle of Evergreen Park, I believe it is, in Peoria. Massive statue to Robert Ingersoll. But we don't know him today. Peter Logan marker. This is what we put up this past summer. He was a conductor on the Underground Railroad. He was a black man who was son of slaves from Arkansas. He came to Illinois. He was the first black property owner in Tazewell County. And he was a conductor on the Underground Railroad. He raised horses, and he won the first blue ribbon at the state fair for the horses. Very well known in his community, but we don't know him today. And I like this picture of the farmer out standing in the field where Peter Logan had his field, looking at the marker of Peter Logan. General Lyon disaster, Civil War disaster off the coast of South Carolina, where a boiler blew up with the ship carrying Union soldiers, many of them from Southern Illinois, blew up, all were lost at sea. They put up this marker in Murfreesboro to this ship's disaster. So we're talking about what constitutes a good historical marker and why you want to tell stories that are lost. Who knows about the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald? Everybody knows because of what? The song. Yeah, the song. 29 people lost their lives on the Edmund Fitzgerald, and a song memorialized them for all time. The General Lyon went down, I think 200 people on board, all lost. We don't remember them. A couple other ones on the Mississippi River that blew up, that we don't remember the names of people who were on board. But a lot of maritime disasters. Anybody know what the Eastland disaster was?
Yes.
Tell me about it, sir.
It just sat at the dock in Chicago, and it was overloaded and it tilted over.
It rolled over in the middle of the Chicago River. 600 people lives were lost. The worst inland maritime disaster in history. In the United States, anyway. But mostly women and children couldn't get out of this thing because it's a huge thing. It just rolled over, and they couldn't get it to roll back over. So all those women and children were underneath there. Another disaster up in Pekin called the Columbia disaster, where a boiler blew up, and they lost 150 lives up there because of steamboat accidents or riverboat accidents. And in the case of the Eastland, it was sitting at the dock. It just rolled over because people went over on one side of it, and it just rolled over. This one here, just recently dedicated this one called the Henry Stevens marker. A black union activist, a miner from Pana, came to Springfield. He was busy trying to agitate and get better rights for not just African Americans, but for streetcar workers in Springfield who had broken contracts with their bosses there. So he was an activist in Springfield, black, not very well known, but he was big. In Springfield, he's still a pretty well known union fighter in 1917, 18. And when Carl Sandburg came to Springfield, he interviewed Henry Stevens, and there's a long poem that Sandburg wrote called The Sayings of Henry Stevens, talking about issues in Springfield and about unfair union practices that were going on. This one here, another Carl Sandburg influence. Carl Sandburg. Anybody grow up reading a Sandburg poem? Anybody know a Sandburg poem in this room?
Fog.
Fog, very good. But he wrote thousands of poems, and Pulitzer Prize winning biographer of Lincoln, 6-volume Lincoln, Prairie Years, the War Years. So he was selling like Viewmasters in 1908, somewhere in there. He rode his bicycle from Galesburg to a little bitty town called Neponset, which is drive up route, what is it, 78? Eventually you'll run into
74.
74?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you been to Neponset?
Yes.
Yeah. Not much there, is there? No. But these kids were there, and they were reciting Carl Sandburg's poem called Neponset. He wrote a poem because he rode his bicycle from Galesburg to Neponset to sell Viewmasters. And while he was there, the train went by, and he thought all the cars looked like little pea pods. And so he wrote this short little poem called Neponset. The pods in Neponset, and those are all train cars. Nobody knows that story. They know that story. Those kids know that story, and they recited the poem at that marker dedication. It may be the only thing you see in Neponset that makes you remember that there's stories everywhere we go, and some of the stories are great, and some of them are just stories, just good stories. Now this one, Paul and I were in a little town called Secor. Anybody know where Secor is? Secor is a tiny town, 300-400 people between El Paso and Eureka. El Paso, Eureka. Just a little dot with a car and grain elevator and a railroad track. But in 1888, a young woman was born. Her name was Wilhelmina Minnie Vautrin. Her father was a blacksmith. He spoke French. Her mother died. She was raised by her father and his parents. She wanted to go to school and be a teacher, so she went to school, went to Illinois State and got a teaching degree. Then she went to the University of Illinois and completed more teaching. And she was a member of the Disciples of Christ Church. Anybody know Disciples of Christ? She became a missionary in China. She used her education, and she was head of a young women's college called Jingling College for Women. 8 to 15, 16, 17-year-olds went to the school to learn English and to learn a trade, if they could get a trade. Now we're talking about China, where women were pretty low on the totem pole. Well, Wilhelmina went there, and she was there for 25 years, got all kinds of accolades from the Chinese people, from the American people. She was at an American camp in Nanjing, China, what we also call Nanking, which was the capital of China in 1937, when the rape of Nanking happened. The rape of Nanking, 300,000 people were killed in her front yard in 3 months, murdered by the Japanese army. Documented, happened in her front yard, basically. How many men were killed in World War II for the United States? 500,000 over 4 years, over 10 continents. She saw 300,000 people killed in her front yard in 3 months. She was told to come home to the United States. She didn't come home. She stayed there and opened the doors to the college to let all the young women and girls into the college to save their lives. She is said to have saved 10,000 lives in 4 months in China. The Chinese governor put a statue up to her in Nanjing. She is called the goddess of mercy in China, still to this day. On the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, the Chinese consulate came down from Chicago to Secor to read a proclamation to this woman, who all she wanted to do was teach. And her legacy said she saw all these deaths in her front yard. She came home to the United States in 1941, early in April, and she killed herself because she was not able to save enough lives. And no one here knows that story, but she do now. And that marker in Secor, to Minnie Audrey, is the only testament to what she did in this country. The Chinese consulate wants to come down here and put a memorial garden in Secor, a town of no more than 300 or 400 people. They want a children's book to be written about this woman because she is so revered. I want you to know that because Secor is only an hour away, and you should go there and see that marker. I get teary when I talk about this story because it just is so incredible that she did all this not knowing it was going to happen to her. Okay, I'll jump over here. More Southern Illinois markers. This is one, what's this one say? I can't even read it. The one on the left is one to one of the Logan men. You know, Logan County's named for somebody from Southern Illinois. Which one is it?
Dr. John Logan.
Dr. John, who's related to the John Logan from Carbondale and Murfreesboro. So that's a marker. They have several markers in Murfreesboro to John Logan and his family. And the one on the right to that is Metropolis. It's a marker with two sides. One for a man named Oscar Michaud, who was a filmmaker, a black filmmaker from Metropolis, who was known all over the country between 1915 and 1930. First black professional movie maker. Some of his movies are still around, but nobody knows his story. The Smithsonian has his films. And on the other side of it is a marker to Annie Turnbull, who was the first black female millionaire who sold cosmetic products around the country. So she's a big one too for somebody talking about who deserves a marker. Who do we need to tell each other about? This one here, Illinois petroleum industry. You all probably seen the pumps all over southeastern Illinois, southern Illinois. Well, the petroleum industry was huge down there, just huge at one time. The Salem oil fields made millions for lots of folks. These people put a marker up to their industry that's no longer there. You still see the pumps. This is one to the Potawatomi Indians. It's a replacement marker for a marker that was up there from the war, from the Black Hawk War. Black Hawk War. What year?
1832.
1846, something like that.
1832. It only lasted between May and August. It's short-lived, but it's cataclysmic in a lot of ways. It pushed the Indians out completely and blamed the Sauk and Fox for atrocities that were committed over by Ottawa, far away from their lands. But when the newspapers got a hold of the atrocities, that's when the federal government came out from New England, and they took over all the militias, and it was the American Army that came and wiped out Black Hawks, mostly women and children, of the Battle of Bad Axe. horrible stories about the Black Hawk War. But what also followed that army, the Federal Army, when they came from the east to fight Black Hawk, was cholera. Cholera came over from England, and you could follow in Liverpool, you could follow the ships as they sailed into the Great Lakes, where they would throw bodies overboard because the cholera was so bad. You caught cholera in the morning and you were dead before dinner. That's how fast it was. And it just completely emptied everything in your body. So you could follow it all the way down. So the Black Hawk War happened, and the cholera followed it. And Illinois Governor Ninian Edwards, third Illinois governor, died of cholera in, I believe, in Belleville. And then he came to Springfield and was buried twice, 2 more times. So the Potawatomi Fort Payne marker is on the campus of North Central College. They wanted to do something to kind of remind people that the Black Hawk War was more than what we're told. So one of the things we try to do with markers is tell the story that we never quite got right. Hutchinson Cemetery in Springfield. Lincoln's son, Eddie, was buried in the cemetery, which is now on the grounds of Springfield High School. That was the city cemetery for a while. Ninian Edwards was buried there too, and then he moved to Oak Ridge. But this is a little marker there that the kids at the history club put up for Springfield High School. That's significant because kids do these things, and they explore and they love the research. These are some fellows in Peoria hoisting one of the markers. They're not light. It takes 4 fellows to get that marker up on that pole. And this is for another cemetery that was for people who were buried in Peoria and then abandoned, and the cemetery was covered over with asphalt. And there's still 150 bodies under the asphalt, and they haven't done anything with it. Including a woman, the first woman, the only woman, that Abraham Lincoln freed from slavery through the courts. Let's see, I'm almost done here, believe me. This is a marker we did in Washington, Illinois, not too long ago. You see these people got all dressed up for it. You see the marker in the background over there. This is for Lincoln's visit to Washington, Illinois in 1858 during the Lincoln-Douglas debates. Sometimes markers about Lincoln don't have to say a whole lot, but just because Lincoln's name's there, people get markers. Keep thinking about that. Who deserves a marker in Logan County? This is one we did 2 weeks ago in Yorkville. Anybody know where Yorkville is? Up there in Kendall County, just up Highway 78, is that what it is? Yeah. I can't remember. Paul and I, we've been everywhere in the last week, it seems like. Put a lot of miles on, but this is for another church that was on the Underground Railroad. It was Congregationalist and what's the other one? Not Disciples of Christ. It's a Congregational church and a Baptist church. That's what it was. So they had a site on the Underground Railroad, and a lot of people, freedom seekers, came through their church. There's a picture of me with some of the people who were there, including Lauren Underwood, United States Congressperson, came to that dedication. Let's see. These are markers that are underway right now or have been dedicated in the last month. The Lincoln and the Berry family, it's in Petersburg. Lincoln in Washington, which you just saw. World War I U.S. military camp Herring, which is where Caterpillar got its start making tractors to use in World War I to climb through the trenches. It was a company called Holt, or Holt. But that was a precursor to the Caterpillar company. They wanted a marker. Hainer Public Library District in Alton, Village of Riverside, which is up in Chicago, way across Chicago. History of the brick industry in Blue Island, and Country Financial and Illinois Agricultural Centennial. These are markers that we did, and I've got 10 more on my desk at the office that I'm going to be working on next. 3 months, all over the state. So anybody have an idea? What's your marker? What marker we're gonna put up in Logan County for home?
What's the criteria? Do you have some?
State, local, or national significance? Could be a
I
teacher.
know someone that probably everybody in the room knows, E.H. Lukenbell.
E.H. Lukenbell.
E.H. Lukenbell is public school with the schools.
The superintendent.
Can you think of any markers that we have in Logan County right now?
Langston Hughes.
Hughes. Who else? William Maxwell. The Maxwell marker. Those are significant. Those are national, in some cases international markers. The Robert Music one is. You've got a couple Lincoln markers here. The watermelon statue. Watermelon marker.
There's one on a building downtown that he owned, it was a lot, I think, President Lincoln owned the property,
Yeah.
and it's posted on the building.
Got the rustic tavern
Yeah.
where the body stealing was planned.
Right.
The body stealing was planned. That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good one. But there's all kinds of possibilities. But I think what you need to do, if you want to do it, is find a couple possibilities. Run something in your newspaper and say, how about we vote on this? How about we get the kids to vote on this? How about we get the kids to come out and take some kind of appreciation for your local history? Those kids in Neponset were so overjoyed to get a chance to read that Sandberg poem. And every time we go do a marker dedication, I always want a kid to unveil it, to help unveil it, because we're going to be gone 30 years. We won't be around to remember this stuff. The kids have to remember it. Otherwise, it's all for naught. So thank you all for your time tonight, and maybe we can talk a little bit more. Yes, sir.
What is known about Camp Herring?
Camp Herring was a World War I camp, recruitment camp, but it was also where a Caterpillar started setting up those tractors that went overseas that replaced the horses. I didn't tell you about the horses. Millions of horses were used in World War I. And one of the places where they got those horses was a town called East Alton. They raised the horses and they packed them up and they shipped them overseas to fight the war. And when they were done with them, most of them were killed because they couldn't bring them back over. And some of those horses fed the starving Frenchmen. So you've got that marker that talks about the horses and how they mobilized to get them overseas. And then you have the Camp Herring marker that talks about what happened afterward. And those Caterpillar tractors won the war.
Is it a marker for Camp Ellis?
Camp Ellis has a marker. It's not ours, but it's on the grounds of the high school at Table Grove. Yeah, you have to find it. I was surprised to see it. Yes, ma'am.
New Holland recently celebrated 150th anniversary, and there were 3 homes that were written about in the history book.
Okay.
And the homes, the original homes still exist. And sitting here thinking, I wish we'd had markers to mark, like especially Jacob Newald, who was the first resident in the area, and he and his family lived in a cave in Prairie Creek.
Really?
What do you call it? It was a dirt mountain, it was the side of Prairie Creek. It was like a cave there in the side of that creek. And they lived there for a couple of years until they had their homestead built. And so some of the hardships they went through, I wish, that we'd had something there. We put it in the history book, but it would have been nice if people could have driven. They could have anyway, but there was nothing to denote that this is someplace special. Because we still have Garrett LaForge's home and we have Bryce Caldwell's home still standing. And I
Those
just,
are possibilities.
it would have really helped that people driving around could have stopped, read it, and really gotten a little bit more of the experience having been there at the home.
Well, when Lincoln moved to Decatur, he lived in a lean-to for the first year. A lean-to. Yes?
Lincoln and the Berry family, were you talking about the store at New Salem?
It's not just the store. William Berry, who was Lincoln's clerk, co-clerk in the store, was the son of another Berry, John Berry, who was the pastor of Rock Creek Presbyterian Church, which still stands. And there's still a church there, and they still do services. And there's a cemetery there where the Berries are buried. So this is a Menard County marker that disappeared for many, many years. And they approached us and asked us if they could have another marker. So they paid for a new marker to commemorate that little footnote in Lincoln's history. Carla?
What about the cost of the marker?
Markers are pricey. $2,300 for a small one, $5,000 for a big one. The society gets an application fee of about $500, but the rest of it goes into the cost of that marker. We have a foundry that we use in Grandview, Indiana. It's a mom and pop situation. But like the Lincoln Berry, they had to come up with the money for it. And they had a couple donors, and then the Menard County Historical Society gave some money, and then the New Salem, they gave some money. So finding money has never been a problem for people who really wanted to get a marker. And like I say, I have 10 on my desk right now for next year already, and I'm trying to figure out where that's going to come from, how it's going to work. Plus all the markers people are talking about for America's 250th anniversary. So there may be some of those coming too.
166?
And Route 66, it's not a big thing on my priority list, but for a lot of people it is. It's big. Yeah, there are some stories there, but we got Edwards Trace markers in Springfield. I don't know if you have one here. I don't think they have one in Elkhart, but there should be one here. You've got a Potawatomi camp right there behind the hotel just off I-55 that they excavated. They have it there. It was there in the War of 1812 when they came through, and they burned it up. Many Edwards and his army burned it up, but Potawatomi were right there here in your community. I've talked enough. You've heard enough. Probably should go home, right? Don't you think? We can all just camp here tonight. That'd be all right. Thank you so much.
Don't leave yet. I didn't forget Lizanne.
That's
kind of hard, Marlon.
All right, Marla and I are asking for your help. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's all right.
Okay. I brought along tonight a letter and a form. Marla and I, we have been doing a project since 2007. Now, have you seen it in print yet? No.
Life happens.
A lot in the last 18 years. So anyway, we're getting a really good start again. We're hoping to get this accomplished before one or both of us is deceased.
She keeps saying, I'm gonna die, and then I'm gonna have this to do by myself.
What we're hoping to do is gather information about the first 100 years of Logan County, the businesses that once existed that are nowhere known, very little known about them. You can go through some of the Logan County histories and see where they'll say there was like a barbershop, 3 general stores, and so forth in there, but it doesn't give you any detail.
Tell them about Harness. Has anybody heard of Harness?
Yes. Yeah. Harness was between, well, you fill in, because Harness was a little town between San Jose and New Holland. They're on the Peoria Springfield route there, okay? And originally there was one railroad that came in, and then it was surveyed for a town, but it wasn't until the Chicago and Alton, I think, was coming through. Then they went ahead and built this little town of Harness. It didn't last too many years, but it's not there anymore, and there's nothing to show that it ever existed, but it was there. If you look in the 1982 Logan County History book, there is a picture of one of the businesses that was there. C.W. Tyler and Son had a grocery store going out of business, and there is a photograph in that 1982 history book. So, and that's the only picture I have found of Harness, and I'm hoping somebody will say that they have some.
So my first job was working for the land surveyor at Crocker, Murphy and Tilley here in Lincoln. And we received a request from somebody who was buying a lot in Harness, Illinois. And so John Olinger, the land surveyor, and I went to this empty field, but there was a plat for the town. And he, being the genius that he was, found this lot in Harness, Illinois, and we surveyed it, and somebody bought it. And I still remember Harness, Illinois. There was nothing there.
No, there isn't anymore. But it's things like that, because there was Yankeetown, there was, is it Bloomingdale? Is it Bloomingdale?
Bloomingdale,
Was
yeah.
Bloomingdale existed?
Out
There-
yeah.
Well, and at one time, before we had Atlanta, Illinois, they first wanted to name it Hamilton. And the post office got windows, and no, we already have a Hamilton, Illinois, you can't name it that. So they chose Xenia, Illinois. They wanted to have it as Xenia. Well, before they got the official word from the post office, they have some deeds in that town, in that area, that say they were in Xenia, Illinois, which did not exist because it became Atlanta. You know, so they do have some historical records there showing Xenia. But a lot of those things happen, but at one time there could have been a little bit of a town that started up and then blew into another town. I think, what was the one outside of Chestnut that we were, is that Yankeetown that became Chestnut?
No, London.
Bakerville, okay.
London.
There was a bunch of them. There's a lot of these little towns, you know,
And,
so.
and they did function, like Harness, there's one out by me, out by, north of Chestnut called, it was London. And, there's a house still out there that's livable, somebody's always living in it, it's a 2-story brick house. And that is the only thing left of that little community. But they all had, a post office, a store, sometimes a church, a little school out, you know, a couple miles from town. So they were functioning and sometimes self-sufficient, but then people started moving over to the next town or to the bigger town, or the railroad came through and they decided to move on. So
what we're asking you is for some help. If you know anything about any of the businesses during 1839 to 1939, and I know you've probably got them at home written in your diary from when you went and visited, so anyway.
when you
But
went shopping.
if you know someone had a family-owned business, if someone in your family or somewhere else, and you could give us a little bit. It happened a long time ago, but it's a shame to let it be forgotten that people actually started a business, and now it's no longer even thought about or known. And we realized, Marla and I have talked about this, that just to write a book, naming the town and the businesses were there, very few people are gonna want to buy it. But we're hoping that you will help add interest to the book with personal stories or some insight into some of those businesses that you may be aware of. So we're just asking for your help to help us make this a book that will be reader friendly.
The reason we started this was because we were, you know, Roseanne grew up in Lincoln, I didn't, but lived here long enough that I've seen businesses come and go. And we were talking one day about, oh, this used to be here, and oh, remember when that was there, and whatever, and finally realized that if we didn't know, or like Roseanne remembered, but how many people wouldn't have known? It's like what Bill's talked about. If you don't write it down, or don't make a monument for it, or don't mark it, it'll be gone. And you might think, oh, well, who cares? But we do care. And it matters how we got here where we are now. And that's what these businesses did.
And we figured the first 100 years would be the easiest. It's not like today, you have a business, you have 5 different businesses in one location over a period of time. Back then, they usually held on to them for years.
Yeah.
Or it was passed on to another family member, or the town just imploded, it no longer existed, and they were all gone. But please, if you could find, I've got the letter here explaining, and then I also have a form. If you would stop by and pick up a couple and take these home, and if not just Lincoln, but if you know of a town, any of the other towns within Logan County, please jot something down, just a few sentences, we can fill in the blanks.
It's a place to start. If there's a name or
Well, that wasn't
some
around.
tidbit of information.
I
And it's, we have done a lot of research in New Holland and Middletown, and we're gonna focus on one town until we think we've milked it for all it's worth, and then we move on to the next town. So we've collected a lot of information, but it helps. You know, if you remember somebody talking about something, even if it's a small bit of information, it might give us something to go on to research.
So, anyway, thank you for listening, and I do have some forms, and I hope you'll be able to help us with some things, Abby. I figured you would, I brought extras. I was hoping you'd say that. So anyway, any small town or anything, just please, see one of us, Marla or myself, we'll be glad to give you a form or make sure you get one. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Tom?
I got another FYI. Don't know if you've ever been on Route 54 going into Springfield, but right after Cornland, there's a little town called Buffalo Heart.
Yes.
Just an elevator, and there was an old general store. I was by there a few weeks ago, and they're tuck pointing that store.
Really?
And they said some local farmer bought that and is restoring it.
That's great.
It used to be an important town. It's always in the newspapers back then.
Buffalo Heart?
Yeah.
I think they're just buying one house there was probably the elevator manager's house.
They used to make a lot of cookies there, Tom.
Oh, really? Well, I do now.
Or make a trip tomorrow.
Yeah, you might be right.
Before I go, I want to get your picture. Nobody will believe me.
Just don't tell wild stories.
That's all I can tell. Thank you.